Hello you guys. Today I'm inspired by a male comment on my video. Divorces are filed by women done with bad treatment. Good men are not left or divorced. And really comes down to when men neglect women emotionally, the women will check out and eventually leave because being ignored is actually hostile. Having contempt against her, neglecting her, and abusing her are hostile acts that eventually will make a woman want to leave. And the guy's like, wait, I provided the money. I came home every night for dinner. I mean, I know I never talked to you. I know I didn't ever look at you when we had sex. I know I never asked you out. I know I said no to therapy when you kept asking me to go, but hey, I provided and I'm a good provider. I don't need feelings. I don't need to know how you feel. A relationship is about what we do for each other. It's our actions. And I've heard people say this before, and so I'm not going to pick on this gentleman for leaving the comment. I'm going to appreciate him for giving me a good springboard to talk about this very big mistake, because relationships are ultimately about connection. And to be fulfilled in a relationship and to have the other person fulfilled, they need to be seen, heard, valued, appreciated, and you need to acknowledge their bids for connection. When you look at the Gottman's four horsemen, the predictors of divorce, one of them is dismissiveness. So for example, if I tell if my boyfriend says, hey, did you hear about what happened at so-and-so, this football game? And I don't give a crap about football. But if I just dismiss him because I don't care about football when I know he's so excited, that's hostile. This is a hostile act. So, hey, I know you're really excited about the game. What happened? You have to be aware of people's feelings. Now, in that video that I made, I said that women leave men who ignore, neglect them, or dismiss them. And he disagrees with me about the nature of men. He says that men are not designed to have feelings. Okay, men are designed by the Creator or the uncaring universe to provide, protect, and die in furtherance to the propagation of our species. Okay, first of all, I'm going to stop right there because I have sons and grandsons, and a little boy has just as many feelings as a little girl until you bludgeon it out of him, until you chop it out of him and kill it off. A little boy only loses his capacity for empathy and compassion and feeling either where he was never given to it. He was either never loved or it was beaten out of him by a mean parent who shamed him for having feelings at all. And he had to build up a wall around his heart, because the average man does have feelings. I'm not even done yet. I'm only in the first sentence. Then he talks about how men are supposed to provide, protect, and die. Why would you provide and protect something you don't care about? You have to care about it, right? You have to have some feelings to have some compassion and to care about something. That is a feeling. Anyway, humans, as far as we know, are the only living creatures on our planet which has an internal dialogue, self-reflection, and feelings. That's true. Dogs don't. That's why people love dogs. No matter what you do to your dog, no matter how much you leave him alone all day, he's going to be happy to see you. He's going to come up to you and he's going to be like happy to see you, unless he's severely abused, in which case he will run off, like the women who file for divorce. So, all other creatures are purely utilitarian survival of the fittest. In order to provide and protect, we men must be able to turn our feelings off most of the time. Now, I will say that people in the workforce do have to repress their feelings And people in relationships do have to repress their feelings. But I don't think that that is a sign of a healthy relationship. And I think that adds a lot of stress to people's lives. When you have a crappy boss, or you have to deal with a mean customer all the time, or you have a spouse who's neglectful, and you have to repress your feelings. You can turn off your feelings. It's called dissociating. And many people who turn off their feelings end up with illnesses and PTSD. And that's what we're going to get to when he talks about war. Because when men go to war, they have to turn off their feelings. And I've met a lot of Marines that had to go into combat. They're very passionate, sensual men in their relationships. But when they go to war, they have to turn off their feelings to kill the enemy. But they still have feelings for their comrades. And in fact, in the Marine Corps, because I've met so many Marines, they specifically look for men who have an emotional bonding capacity, an ability to connect, to have empathy, to care about their fellow soldiers, because you have to rely on them when you go into battle. But from men I've talked to who've been in combat, when they see other men die and struggle, or they see their comrades die, or they have to kill the enemy, it's extremely causes them PTSD, and a lot of them end up committing suicide because they're so distraught over having to kill another soldier, even though that's the enemy. We see that happening in Israel right now. I know that has happened here in the US with people coming back from war, how the trauma of that has really debilitated these men because they're not sociopaths. The only men that don't have feelings are sociopaths or autistic men. But even autistic men know they're autistic. So I'm really disagreeing with this gentleman. But let's hear what he has to say. In war, which has existed in all of human history, you must check your feelings at the door and kill the others with impunity. Yes, but at what cost to yourself? Unless you're a sociopath, you're going to end up severely depressed when you come back, alcoholic, PTSD, despondent, and you may even unalive yourself. We pick our friends based upon aptitude and capabilities so that our team can collectively be victorious. Yes, but one of the aptitudes is empathy. Because what they look for for men that they enlist, they're not going to enlist autistic men or sociopaths. You need to care about your fellow teammates. They're your brothers. The same with guys who are firemen. They stay at the fire station for days. They cook for each other. They're buddies. Police officers, they're buddies. You have to have some empathy. You seem perplexed that men do not think and act like a woman, but it is simply because we're not women. I never said you are, but you're human and humans have feelings. When men listen to women, we do so to get the facts and desired objectives so that we can build a plan and execute it. That could be true. I don't really know because I'm not a man. I don't know. We do not see feelings as instrumental to this end. Men do not have to like or even agree with their work boss in order to obey them, perform their function, get paid, and get promoted. I think that could be true. I think that men are very good at single focus and pushing everything out to the side. And I think that's one thing that makes men different from women is their ability to do that in order to perform a specific function. You know, perform this task, get this job done, perform a specific task. But when it comes to their relationships, a different set of capabilities is required. Okay? The adversarial nature of the sexes in modern history is not serving men or women. I agree. Men nor women, I agree with him. Let's let men be good at man stuff and women be good at woman stuff and work together in harmony. That is what a marriage is supposed to do. If women are divorcing men because they're not like women, then they should just be lesbians. I didn't say that having feelings makes a man a woman. It just makes him human. So I said, marriage to a man devoid of feelings is exactly what I said in the video is the cause of women leaving the men. And I said he had feelings when he dated her. Because in order for the woman to be interested in the man, he has to show compassion, empathy, interest. He has to ignite her feelings. Okay, so at some point he did have feelings. So if he turns them off by becoming avoidant, neglectful, dismissive, contemptuous, without wanting to address the source of his contempt, stonewalling, being critical or whatever, she's going to divorce him. That was the point of my video. Because he wasn't that way in the beginning, or she would have never started dating him to begin with. But he says feelings are not measurable and do not necessarily translate to actions. I care more about what people do than how they feel. And I think this is a really good comment. I care more about what people do than how they feel. Well, what the person is doing has to have some healthy boundaries, okay? When I'm interacting with someone, what I do has to consider me and you. I have to consider the impact I have on you. I can't just say whatever I want because I'm entitled to say that. There's going to be a consequence, and the consequence is going to be weakening that relationship. Like I told my kids when they were little, you can't hit mommy. Little kids always try to hit their parents. They don't know yet that they can't. You got to teach them. When you hit mommy, it hurts mommy. You don't like to be hit either, do you? And they get that. Or when you lie to me, you tell your partner, if you lie to me, it ruins our relationship because it makes me trust you less. Actions have consequences in the emotional realm, and relationships are a lot about emotions. Dr. Robert Glover is really good. He actually knows a lot about relationships because he works with men, and he was a marriage counselor for decades. And he says that you have to keep a woman in emotional tension. If you want to be in a relationship with a woman, you have to maintain emotional tension. And that's where this commenter is right about men and women being different. We want to be emotionally engaged. Good sex to a woman is when she's emotionally engaged in the experience. She's feeling things emotionally. It's exciting, it's adventurous, it's connected, it's warm, it's sensual, it's passionate. Whereas the man might be like, oh my God, I like this position. I like to look at her sucking my dick. I like how this looks. I like being service. I like the doing, He might be more interested in the action, while the woman may be more interested in the emotional experience of it. But that doesn't mean that you can just do whatever you want. There's going to be an impact on that relationship. And if you just do whatever you want, like I protect and provide, I'm bringing home the money, why do you even want me to look at you or talk to you? So I said to him, I'm guessing you aren't married. And I don't think he is. I think that this is a guy who is either a player. He has to be able to get women. He sounds very cold. I think he's divorced and angry. That's what I think. I'm pinning him as divorced and angry because he has thought about relationships enough, maybe never married. I'm guessing. Okay, I'm going to guess that based on his comments, he was never married. He's intelligent because he's given this thought. He realizes men and women are different. But he's saying that a relationship doesn't require any feelings at all, that men and women are different, and men are not designed to have feelings. They're designed to protect, provide, and stay on purpose. He's going to go to work. He's going to do his duties. And if you want him to care how you feel, too bad, because he's a man. He doesn't do feelings. That's exactly why a guy like him is single. And I think I nailed it. Sir, if I'm wrong, email me, buy me a coffee, and prove to me that you're married, because I don't think so. Okay, let me finish my comment. I am guessing you aren't married. Relationships require respect and empathy. No feelings makes a person autistic or a sociopath. And I say this as a person who has worked with men for many years, who has men in my family. Healthy men have feelings. They want to fall in love. They want to feel connected. They want to care about something. They want to pet their dog, take their dog for a walk, hang out with their buddies. They want to feel connected. If you have had to shut down your feelings, your woman is going to leave you. And that was the point of my video. But I'm really glad for his comment, and I don't want to poke fun at him, but I'm challenging him here. And I want to point out that if you're a man who says men don't do feelings, don't be surprised if one day your wife leaves you. And the only reason that someone doesn't do feelings, and that goes into women who just want to be choked and slapped during sex, you have been abused and neglected as a child. And I'm guessing this man was abused or neglected as a child by one or both of his parents. Maybe his dad abused him and his mom didn't stop it, or his mom abused him and the dad just stood by silently because he doesn't do feelings and he doesn't care how the little boy felt. So my heart goes out to this guy for being half of a human, because if you don't have feelings, you're not a human. You are an empty shell and a robot. You might have brains, you can reply to my comments, but you don't feel anything. So you're not a full human, you're half of a human. So I hope that any of you who are in that same situation, it might tap into something in your heart where you're like, I wonder when I learned to shut off my feelings. What happened? How old was I when I was shamed for having a feeling? How old was I when I was taught that boys should never feel and boys should never cry? Was it when you fell off your bike and you cried and you were shamed and told boys don't cry? That's a common one. When you were playing a sports game and you broke your ankle and the coach told you, you're a man, you better keep playing. That could be one. Something like that. That's what happened to this gentleman. I'm just guessing based on my experience working with people and coaching people and talking with people and taking couples counseling courses. I took couples counseling courses through Terry Real, several courses, and I also did a couple workshops that were 3-day workshops where we got to observe him coaching couples that were on the brink of divorce after like 20 or 25 years of marriage. And what Terry Real did is he did this inner child work with them where the men actually went back into their childhood and they actually were like bursted out crying. These closed off, walled off men that had been so neglectful in their marriage were brought to tears when they were brought to that moment when they were just a tiny little boy who had to hide under the bed because he was scared of his parents fighting, or because he had to protect his mother against his abusive dad, or he was shamed and told he was nothing or he was worthless, and he had to shut off his feelings. And now these feelings all come flooding back and he's overpowered and he becomes a changed man. So if you're avoidant in your feelings, it's because you were abused in your childhood. You were abused, emotionally abused, when you were told that your feelings make you worthless. It's our feelings that help us see the impact we have on other people and whether people are safe for us or whether they're not safe for us. And this is some work I did with a therapist a few years ago because I kept trying to override my feelings with my head. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't think this way. My feelings are wrong. As I started to honor my feelings, I realized that, well, there are two kinds of feelings. One is a very strong reaction, which is more like a reactivity. You got to slow down and take a deep breath. But other ones are just giving you information that something isn't right for you, that something's unsafe, that you said something that wasn't quite right, or that something isn't trustworthy. Or they let you feel joy, they let you feel love, they let you feel connection and pleasure and passion and gratitude. Because if you've cut off your feelings, how can you feel gratitude and joy? And sometimes our feelings can cause a lot of pain, you know? Like when I went through my divorce, the last 2 years before my divorce, I was in a lot of pain. I was in a lot of pain, emotional pain. A relationship ending, any kind of like emotional abandonment stuff, attachment system stuff is very painful. But you can have other feelings like jealousy that you don't like, or anger. You read something on social media and you get angry, you know, and then it's like, okay, well, I don't want to read that stuff. I'm going to put that phone away. Sometimes you can get angry because someone's violating your boundary. They said they would, meet you for coffee and they didn't show up. If you don't feel angry, you've turned off your feelings. You should be angry. Like, that's not okay. Like, do you have a good reason, or did you just blow me off? Because that's not okay. So I don't think I want to be your friend. Feelings give us information. They're our barometer of interacting with the world. So if you want to be in a relationship, in a healthy relationship, I think you have to have a little amount of empathy for the other person. Some people have so many big feelings that I can't be around women who have a lot of big feelings that they're always throwing at me. Like, that's just too much. Like, now you're just vomiting your feelings and your unresolved inner chaos, because some people have so many feelings that are unresolved issues from the past, and like, don't bring me your drama. But being in the moment and feeling like, oh my God, I love seeing these birds, I love this beautiful sunset, I love the way you're touching me, I love looking at you, I just appreciate you, and I want to know that the things I'm doing make you feel loved. If I'm in a relationship with you, I want to know that I'm behaving in a way where you feel valued. I don't want to be dismissive, or ignore you because my job is to provide. Yeah, I'm gonna bring home the money and ignore you all day because, hey, I'm providing and protecting, right? I bought you the ring light camera and I'm making the money. So, woman, just be content. You do those feelings. That's not for the man. Find yourself in divorce court very quickly. But like I said, this guy has never been married. There's no woman who would ever deal with that. And on this other comment, I'm going to pick on him a little bit, where he said what to look for in a woman: someone whose teeth aren't dirty, who doesn't have her clothes strewn all over the floor, whose shoes are clean. I mean, he's basically describing a woman who isn't like a meth addict as what to look for in a woman. So he's not good for advice, but he did give me a very good opportunity to discuss what happens when your feelings are turned off in your relationship. And I think that's why women are more likely to file for divorce, because we require a healthy emotional connection. And if you don't contribute to that, if you don't see the relationship as a garden, just like a garden needs water, it needs sun. If you don't want to give it water or sun, the woman's going to leave. But the guy could be like a rock. If a guy's like a rock, he doesn't need water or sun. He's just a rock. He doesn't feel anything. And a lot of gay men are that way. I think a lot of men in our society have been shamed out of having their feelings. So they get into relationships. And if you're a man in a relationship with a man, you're both rocks. And you do a lot of crazy sex stuff with other guys. And you do these pill poppers and anonymous sex in bathrooms and sticking your penis through a hole in the wall. That's what a lot of these gay guys do. And they have sex without a condom. Anal sex without a condom. Okay? That's how nasty these guys get. So they're rocks. They don't care. And a rock doesn't need any emotional thing. But to lesbians, women are more emotional. A lot of women are too emotional, so they want to discuss everything. And it gets to be too much. And I think these women can get on each other's nerves. And also, if one woman, the nice thing about having a man and a woman is that the man can provide some stability to a woman who is emotionally too much drama. She's always coming home and feeling things. It's like, honey, slow down, give me a hug. And he can kind of settle her down if she's a little too emotional. That's what I think. Because I've been wondering about, why is it that lesbians have a higher divorce rate than gay men? And I think it's their emotional untetheredness. You have to be emotionally stable. And a lot of women are not. Especially when they get their periods. Oh my God. I remember when I used to get my period, my moods would just be so, and I would dread getting my period because I knew that my moods, I would just be in a really bad mood right before. And then during my period, all the cramping and all the, it was just awful. I don't think men know what that's like. But by my 30s, it had all kind of evened out. And now, I mean, I feel very emotionally stable now. But there are the only things that can really bring me out of some emotional stability is if I were to do a hookup with a guy and he was very passionate with me and then blew me off. That is to me very unsettling to my physiology. So I don't do that anymore. I don't do things like that that would bring me unnecessary grief, you know. And likewise, I think that men by the age of 30, they figured out that emotionally healthy women are not going to be down for just DTF. The only women that are down for DTF are broken women who want sex that has no passion, emotion, or connection, and those exist. And the men that don't mind just having random sex, they have to pick a woman like that who doesn't require any emotional content, you know, because that makes it comfortable. Because for some people, all the intimacy they can handle is the physical mechanics of sex. Because that way they can get touch and connection in a way that feels safe. So that's just me, I haven't made a video in so long, and I'll tell you why. Because I have, since April, I've had really bad pain in my left hip area. It has hurt to walk. I was in pain all the time, even when I was sleeping, and I didn't want to do anything. And since almost a week now, I can walk without pain. I've been doing intense like rehab work, PT type rehab work, but not with the PT. I found someone better, actually a personal trainer. I actually found a really good one who used to work as a PT. And 90-minute deep tissue massages once or twice a week. And last night was the first time I went to bed without putting Tiger Balm all over my leg, and I slept pretty good. So now that I'm feeling back to myself, I feel like doing stuff again. When it comes to pain, I'm just such a big baby. I'm like, I don't want to make videos when I'm in pain. I just don't. I admire people who are in pain and still make videos, and I know that exists. That's not me. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I think that your comments are a really good springboard for me to make videos, especially when I feel like, oh, I feel like talking again. I feel like talking again.